Dell Technologies Forum.
It is a special year because in every era there comes a frontier that really defines progress. And undoubtedly for India today, that frontier is artificial intelligence. So the theme of our exclusive panel discussion here today is aptly titled India's new big frontier, that's artificial intelligence. And AI is no longer just about innovation, it's also about sovereignty around the world today. In fact, a recent Dell IDC report highlights that by 2027, nearly 60% of the governments worldwide will be putting in sovereignty as a major criteria for AI procurement. What does this mean for India? Well, this means that we need to build infrastructure that not only scales, but also safeguards our data, supports local languages, and keeps us globally competitive. So the big question we are trying to answer here on our panel discussion today is just how do we make India a sovereign AI nation? And to answer these questions and many more, I'm joined by a panel of very eminent industry experts. On this panel today, we are looking at AI as India's new big frontier from four distinct lenses, if I may say so. We're looking at enterprise architecture, we are looking at agentic AI systems, we are looking at vernacular and how we can support the growth of Bharat using AI. And of course, while doing all of this, how do we remain globally competitive? So yes, 45 minutes perhaps not enough to cover everything out there, but let me start by bringing you in, Sharad. The first question, as we are accelerating towards large-scale AI adoption in India, how do we prioritize this backbone infrastructure? What do we need to do first?
First of all, I'd like to thank Dell for inviting me here. And, great question. I think there are three key priorities for us. First is build a purpose-built AI sovereign compute in the country. You saw in Manish's slide that AI mission is enabling, has already garnered 34,000 plus GPUs, but we need a lot more. And I think it not only requires government incentive, but also private companies need to step up to the fold and build this infrastructure for training, inferencing, fine-tuning, and the entire AI lifecycle. We also need sustainable data centers for AI. These are high energy, high density data centers. We worked with Dell and built India's one of the first liquid cooled as well as liquid immersion cooled data centers for PhonePe. And last but not the least, we also need an national AI ecosystem, which I think AI mission is enabling, where people like Gyani and others are building models that can be shared. There are common data sets that can be shared so that we can, and there even our local languages support is there. And so it's not only the global models, but also the local sovereign models that make us self-sufficient. So I think the combination of all three is what we need to do.
Right. Now, Ganesh, when we look at India's diversity, we are a country of many countries. Our diversity, our complexities are changing perhaps at every few hundred kilometers. Training AI requires, of course, huge amounts of data, perhaps more structured data and high quality data than we have at the moment. What's missing today and where are we in trying to fill those gaps?
So I think you addressed a really important factor here. Right. So essentially, depending on whom you ask, so one answer is always clear that every 15 to 20 kilometers in India, you will definitely find a different dialect, you'll find a different language, and it's also India-specific things like noise environments. In India, we often try to include the noise environments in India, for example, are very different compared to countries outside. So India is a very unique country in that respect. Give you my own example. I am a person whose mother tongue is Tamil. I was born in Mumbai, and today I stay in Bangalore, right? So I have my English and also every language that I speak has influences from each and every place that I've stayed in the past. So what you really need is a system that can understand, especially when it comes to voice-based and more complex video-based systems, that can understand the various dialects and the various languages that people speak. For example, the way I speak Tamil is very different from the way a person in Chennai speaks Tamil, and it's very different from the way a person in Bangalore speaks Tamil, right? So essentially what you need is data, right? And so for example, what we did when we started this company 7, 8 years back was to go ahead and build the data for every dialect, every district, every language. So it's not only demographics-based data, it's also data based on noise environments, it's also data based on usage, right? The way we talk in an office environment often is very different from how we talk when we talk to customer service, for example. So data is definitely, very important component to building the more, I would say, advanced AI models. And while the government has done some really good initiatives as AI Kosh that you might have heard about, but number of companies, for example, us, we do create our own sovereign data, which is really very important to solving these problems. To give you some examples, we would have probably the largest annotated voice data set for Bharat, to say Indian languages, say about few million hours. But we need to go even further, because the sample set of a few million hours is not good enough when you talk about a nation of a few billion people. So data is definitely a very important component, and good steps from the government to make it happen. But we are also going ahead and building a lot of this stuff.
Right. Good to know where you're at. And Shankar, bringing you in, Dell has been very vocal about its AI factory model, for accelerating AI adoption. How is it helping Indian enterprises move from pilot projects to mainstream large-scale production? How are you offering the right infrastructure? Share some success stories with us.
Namaskara, Bengaluru, and good to be here. And to start with Manish, and we spoke about Dell AI Factory as a foundation for accelerating AI adoption. And there are 5 critical success factors we see. One, of course, is data. Data is your lifeblood of everything you're doing with AI. And the second very important factor, which is critical for you to progress from POC to production, is skill sets. I mean, skill set is very important factor, and of course, security is another one. Zoe kind of touched upon it, and also the capability of the service partner you're going to be dealing with, and very importantly, having that robust infrastructure which is tailored for AI use cases. So the whole design principle of Dell AI Factory is to make that production ready, blueprint ready for our customers. And Dell Technologies, our engineering teams have spent over 5 lakh engineering hours to do testing and validating of different solution sets, and that's made available for you as your reference architecture. So the whole goal of Dell AI Factory is to ease deployment, number one, and get you started. Start small and then scale your AI use cases enterprise-wide, and also help you build a sustainable and profitable AI platform for your organization. From an adoption point of view, of course, in Sam's presentation, you saw that globally we have over 3,000 plus customers. And specific to India, we see a widespread adoption of AI in the private sector to public sector. And we see BFSI as an example, manufacturing, retail, healthcare, and a lot of startup companies have started implementing AI through Dell AI Factory. And of course, public sector includes ministries and different advanced research agencies, right? The good news is we have hundreds of customers who are already in production with Dell AI Factory, and it's counting.
Good, great. And when you're talking about taking AI mainstream, of course, one of the big things is about building access for everybody. And here, when we are talking about sovereign AI, particularly the areas of rural India, of Bharat, where internet has still been new and its data has permeated, reached there in the last couple of years. We are now talking of building a backbone infrastructure where that supports AI. So in this scenario, partnerships become extremely critical, collaboration becomes extremely critical. Sharad, how can enterprises, cloud players, other key stakeholders, Shankar spoke about the government as well, and Ganesh spoke about the government's initiatives as well. But what is critical to this collaboration really picking up speed and having, impact at scale?
Yeah, so I think collaboration is very key. You can't do everything on your own. So there are multiple stakeholders, as you rightly said. The neo cloud service providers like us. There are a lot of innovative companies and startups, like Gyani, for example. We partner with Dell. We have a slightly different version of the AI factory where we use Dell hardware, but we provide our own software stack on it. And also with the government, because we are creating, we are part of the AI mission, and we want to collaborate with them to be able to build the research use cases that the government is trying to do with various researchers like research companies like Gyani. So we also innovate very heavily with startups, the entire startup ecosystem. We work with many, many companies. A few examples are, for example, Grey Labs, Data Science Wizards. Grey Labs has a very good call center solution for banks. And so we partner with them. We provide the underlying infrastructure. They provide the call center solutions for the banks, which not only helps make their call center more effective, but also helps upsell to the banking customers. Similarly, with Data Science Wizards, we worked with the insurance sector. We use, again, Dell hardware, work with Data Science Wizards for the 23 insurance agents that they've built on our platform. And our platform actually provides not only the hardware, but also the orchestration layer, as well as the entire platform to accelerate the AI application development for enterprises.
Right. And Ganesh, many innovators in tier 2 and tier 3 cities struggle with compute, they struggle with infrastructure. How can shared infrastructure and collaborative hubs really close this gap? Any do's and don'ts for all stakeholders in that area?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, there is a good opportunity today in terms of accessing compute, which is typically one of the barriers that people want to talk about, right? There are local data centers. I think Neysa is one of them. There are a bunch of others which will also help you, overcome this gap. So don't assume, I would say, that we can't get access to compute, right? The compute is available today, and you have various ways of accessing that compute. The second opportunity when you're in a tier 2, tier 3 city, is that you have access to the local problems and you can use AI to kind of solve them. So infra is no longer a barrier, which is what I would like to talk about. People think that we don't have GPUs in India and we can't solve that. But there are number of options for you. You can use an hyperscaler, you can use a local provider, you can use, if you're for certain of your programs and functions, if you want to use CPUs, you have folks like Dell who are here to help you with their ecosystem. So I think there are enough opportunities from the compute standpoint. So I'll just push compute out of the way, right? Because compute usually gets a bad name. The second piece is we talk about talent. And when you talk about talent, I think there is enough talent available in collaborative setups. You just need to go and look deep into the startup environments in those particular cities. Today, say about 20 years back, the only ecosystems that were available were those from TIE and a few other organizations. Today, there are enough collaborative and startup environments in each and every small city of India. So just because you're in a small city of India doesn't mean that you don't have access. Obviously, you need to go and ask for help, and you will definitely find people ready to help you. So now that we put both these elements out of the way, the third is talent, and you'll really find that there are enough people who are now ready to relocate to smaller towns and cities as well. Because a lot of work today gets done remotely, and people are looking forward to, in fact, moving to smaller towns and cities. Fourth most important is academic. Today, the academic institutions in India are very different from what we are used to a few years back. You find, so we work, for example, with a professor in ISC, right? And the hunger that we see in him to look at commercial applications is incredible. It's not just about academic endeavors, it's all about how he can use his research to impact real commercial applications, right? So we work with enterprises and governments, say about 200 enterprises and a couple of governments around the world. But the most important part is academia today wants to come in and learn. And if you are a smaller company, it's more likely to spend more time with you, right? Because they know that you will be spending more time with them. So you covered all the aspects of mentorship, skills, compute, and any sort of help that you might need. So I think AI, as we all know in India and who work with Indian customers, I think we are at the forefront in terms of adoption of AI. I think there's no doubt on that, right? Having worked with customers in India and all across the world, I think the adoption of AI is simply incredible in India, right? And you can use it to solve a number of problems. And if you are in a Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, you don't need to worry about it. You can still beat the world.
Right. Okay. Great. Very, very heartening message out there by you, Ganesh. Shankar, bringing you in. Dell, of course, has a strategy, has a global strategy when it comes to accelerating AI adoption across the world. But as far as India is concerned, how do you adapt your AI infrastructure strategy to all the diversity that you see here? We have grassroots innovators, we have regulated companies, we have fast-scaling startups, yet to be pre-IPO startups. So given all of this diversity, what is Dell's approach to AI infrastructure here?
Yeah. So if you look at our go-to-market strategy specific to India, I think the number one thing is access to most sophisticated and the latest and greatest technology. Manish, in fact, touched on it in the keynote. And it's about in India, for India, and by India. And just touching on the technology, what's been made available for companies of all size. Right? This is not just about very large enterprises. And it could be a startup company or mid-sized company. Technology is made available for all of them. Of course, we believe one size doesn't fit all, and this is where our architectural approach, differentiate us from others. So give an example of CSG portfolio, right? And Sam talked about, how we can empower and inspire our end users with AI-powered desktops and laptop technologies, and you saw a wide range of solutions available there, including the peripherals, right? And then when it comes to our ISG portfolio, that's where we have the most comprehensive solution, which you can start small and start scaling as your requirements start going. And again, the most important thing here is the ecosystem we bring along. We have I would say, the broadest and the brightest ecosystem, and so that our customers can choose the brands they trust to build their own AI platform, right? So it's all based on open, standard-based, modular architecture. So it helps you to start, growing as your number of use cases starts growing within your enterprise.
Right. Good to know. Good to know. And Sharad, adding on to what Shankar was just saying, from your perspective, what is the smartest way today for Indian enterprises to buy or build AI infrastructure, ensuring that they are future ready, but they're also not over investing because, this is a technology that's changing at the speed of light, and enterprises would not like to accumulate technology debt early on as well.
Yeah, also, and the other thing is, NVIDIA keeps announcing new GPUs every year. So if they buy a whole bunch of GPUs, what do they do after a year or so? So there's a lot of, so I think a hybrid approach is the best. So I think a combination of something like what Dell spoke, Manish and Sam spoke about is Dell AI Factory plus a neo cloud or a hyperscaler, for example. A hybrid approach would probably be the most suitable, where they have certain predictable workloads which they can do private cloud for, private AI cloud for, and they can, for the burst, they can use, on-demand or public cloud infrastructure. So I think that would be the most balanced approach for enterprises to adopt.
Right. And Ganesh, what sort of partnerships do you think can help India really balance global competitiveness with local realities? And you are in that space, so give us a sense of how does one build a globally competitive company on the back of AI infrastructure where you have very, very local realities. What are some of the big grassroots challenges that you faced in your journey?
So I think first and foremost, the challenges that you face when you start with a market like India, right, often help you when you go out for global markets. I'll give you one example. One of the typical issues with corporate systems or enterprise systems in the consumer world in India is the use of multiple languages, right? So we do customer support, automation, we do automation of a lot of processes in the banking and financial services space, consumer durables, so on and so forth. But when we start reaching Bharat or the real India, what we find is that people speak typically at least in a combination of couple of languages. In certain cities like Mumbai, it's often they speak 3 languages at a time. So you are forced to build systems that will work in such a environment where you need to handle a multilingual kind of conversation, right? So we would have a patent on that, right? Second is the noise environments in India, right, are a huge challenge. And you go ahead and build systems that can handle any kind of noise environments, right? So what you do is, for example, when we went to the US, right? So one of the first markets that we looked at was where we can apply whatever we built here. And a great opportunity that came to us was a large company in Miami, where they had similar problems. Their problems there were, they had customer service in English and Spanish, right? And their challenges were, how can we enable seamless multilingual conversation with AI agents, just like they do with human agents, right? And the systems that we built in India for Indian customers and to reach the real Bharat helped us in our approach to reach out to these US consumers. So you'll find that, and the world is not just about India or the US, the world is all about, a number of countries in Africa, South America, so on and so forth, which might have similar problems to that of India. So we're doing similar things that we're doing for India. We found that have a niche in, say, Philippines, right? So we've launched an office in Philippines where we found very similar problems where we could very easily adapt what we are doing here, right? Similar stuff that you find in countries like Africa, where you have problems with respect to the kind of environments that we have, the PSTN kind of setups that we have in India, so on and so forth, right? So I think, in short, being in a country like India with a lot of unique kind of problems, right, with a lot of competition, with a lot of demand, also puts you in the right space when you reach out to, countries outside India where there are similar problems and which you could solve. From a collaboration perspective, it's obviously a very collaborative world. We look to technology partners. For example, we do reach out to folks like Dell Technology Services and a bunch of others, where we can lend in our IP and they can deliver great outcomes for their end customers, right? So a number of collaborative options are available in the market, including companies like Dell Technologies, where we can help them solve the problems globally. But it could also be an SI, that solves problems for multiple countries. It could be a software provider that provides, say, a CRM software, and you can use them to leverage them to work with customers all across the world.
Right.
So a number of collaborative options that are available, and it is up to us to go and reach out to the right folks to make it happen.
Yes, absolutely. And like you said, with all that comes at the grassroots level in India, resilience becomes the DNA of enterprises that are able to succeed here. Before I come to the next question, there's an interesting data point that I want to throw out there. Asia Pacific's AI and Gen AI investments are set to hit 175 billion by 2028. That's $175 billion, with infrastructure being a key driver, accounting for nearly 37% of that spend. And Shankar, of course, Dell is at the center of powering infrastructure and, of course, powering AI adoption globally as well. And it's a company that has itself adopted AI very well. So if you had to look into the lessons from Dell's own AI adoption journey, what are some of those that can really inspire Indian enterprises to really scale responsibly when it comes to using AI?
Yeah, certainly happy to share our experience and learning of Dell as customer zero. And yeah, there are few things which I wanted to share here. First, to start with, where are we with the adoption? And within Dell, there are 4 key business units where we have the AI running in production. So that includes our engineering as a key business unit. We have supply chain and go-to-market, which is the sales organization, as well as our technical support organization. So these 4 business units to start with, we already have AI running in production, and there is over 2,000 plus AI ML codes running every day, and with over thousands of users who are actively using. So I'll give an example of what we are doing with the sales organization, because I belong to a sales team. And so within sales, for us to help drive productivity, we are using a tool which is a knowledge assistant and an advanced search engine, okay? And I'll give an example. Every instant I use that tool, on an average, I'm saving 7 to 10 minutes. So if I use that tool, let's say 43 times a week, that's over 300 minutes of saving in a week. That's like saving an hour a day, which I can really use for other productive activities, like probably calling more customers, or maybe spend that time in learning new skills, or probably have more coffee, work-life balance, right? So these are examples, and there is one thing which you would like to give as a key takeaway of already being a customer zero, having AI running in production. I would say, like, focus on 5 key areas. One is be customer-centric. Align your AI to your business priorities. That's very critical. From an infrastructure point of view, start small and scale smart. And the third area is about talent and culture. So this is about reskilling your people, and you have to start attracting new talent and start collaborating internally and also with the ecosystem. That's going to be very, very critical. This is a team sport. And last but not least, you need to have a responsible AI built in your organization. So that includes your ethics, compliance, and governance should be integral part of your AI solution. Of course, this is a very high-level view, and what we have done within Dell is to make all these best practices and the framework available for our customers. We can come and do a one-on-one session with you in a workshop style, and we will do it in your organization so that you can bring in your stakeholders as well as different lines of businesses to be part of that conversation and learning. And this is like a half-a-day workshop, and we call it a AI Accelerator Workshop to help you get started with your AI journey.
Right.
I'd like to add one thing to what you just said, that look at the entire life cycle. So many enterprises do great when it comes to experiments, but they don't actually think about how they'll deploy it in production later. And so if they would have the path to production right in the beginning itself, so that otherwise you see statistics like 70% of AI in enterprises doesn't really see light of day. It doesn't go into production. So I think that should be also, the entire life cycle should be thought through when you're looking at a use case.
Right. And, while we're talking of infrastructure and we're talking of future readiness, edge computing and localized data centers are often spoken of as very key AI enablers. Now, Sharad, India generates about 20% of global data, but holds just about 3% of global data center capacity. In this scenario, how do you see edge computing and localized data centers really fitting into India's larger AI roadmap? What are some of the steps that we should be taking as a nation?
So I think the hub and spoke model of for AI is very key. So source data at the edge. You can do local inferencing for certain kind of applications, and then you have at the hub, like what we are building is the hub, which is centralized compute in key metros in India. But one of the challenges that you face in doing that is when it comes to edge data centers specifically, is economy. The economics don't work out. So if it's there are very few applications which are really low latency applications which can't survive a few milliseconds going to a central location. Or the other use case for an edge data center would be if the data is so large that transferring it is very expensive to a central local. So there are very, very few. I can think of one example is, let's say local CCTV monitoring in a city. That might be a case for localized compute and edge data centers. But edge computing, getting sourcing data from the edge, as even my colleague just said about, getting different languages, getting different intelligence of local problems, that is very key. Doing local inferencing in time-sensitive applications is something that we can do. And so I think the combination of this hub and spoke delivery model is something that, and also this can spur federated learning where you do distributed machine learning, where you gather intelligence without necessarily, so enterprises may not want to, in case of enterprises, for example, they may not want to, they may want data security. They may not want to share data, but they can share the parameters with a centralized hub, right? So you can do federated learning that way and improve the models.
Right. Well, Ganesh, if we talk about future readiness, in the next 5 years, what infra-related breakthroughs, whether in terms of compute, in terms of storage, in terms of connectivity, do you think will most help in transforming AI for Bharat, for rural India?
So I think first and foremost, people start talking these days and say, have you already invested too much into infra, right? Is it already too much storage? Have you already spent too much money ahead of time?
And how much is too much, really?
Yeah, so let me just come to that. So essentially, I'm saying that I think we haven't, absolutely we haven't, right? We badly scratched the surface. Just look at, even if you don't look at broadly the GDP figures, if we just start looking at the adoption that we are seeing in, on the ground, right, with enterprises, with governments, people are just waking up today to what AI can do for them. And I'm just quoting AI in specific because, that's where a lot of these investments are going in today. So we are barely scratching the surface. We probably need about 10x the amount of compute, probably 20 to 50x the amount of storage that we have today, right? It brings me along to, some time back, say, let me go back to, say, 1999, right? The internet boom was just hitting and, Indian companies were just start to leverage. And, I was visiting an office in ITPL in Whitefield, right? And there was just one Unilever office that had occupied ITPL, right? There were like, 4 or 5 buildings and people said, look, there's so much space, but there are no IT companies who are ever going to occupy this. And people gave a timeline of 20 to 30 years for ITPL to be fully occupied, right? Cut short to, say, 2003, people are dying to get in and there was no space available. So what appears as if you're short on storage, you're short on compute, you are going to really need about 10 to 20x. The market is going to be quite incredible in India, right? Because this time it is not just the private players, it's also the government. We also spoke about how, how this is very important from a sovereign perspective, right? And the kind of use cases that we are seeing, right, that are possible with this technology are quite incredible. Whether it's solving the fundamental problems in the country in terms of, education, healthcare, and so on and so forth, but also with enterprises. And the value that people are starting to see is incredible. It is just a starting point, and I think 2 years later, we are going to come and, if we have this forum, we're going to say, hey, you know what? India should have probably invested probably far ahead of its time, and we didn't invest enough.
All right. Well, no conversation around AI in 2025 is complete without talking about agentic AI. Every year we have these technology trends. I think last year was generative AI. This year is undoubtedly agentic AI. So, Shankar, coming to you, if we look at agentic AI as the next big frontier, how is Dell embedding this shift in its infrastructure roadmap? And how are you ensuring that enterprises, your customers, remain future ready?
We are super excited about agentic AI and the opportunity in front of us. So the future of work is going to be defined by the collaboration of human and machine, right? So Dell has taken a very proactive approach in embedding agentic functionalities and capabilities as part of our product portfolio. So we have taken a two-pronged strategic approach with respect to agentic. One is product development, and the second area is partnership. Partnership is going to be very critical here. And just to quote an example, what we are doing from a partnership point of view is our joint engineering efforts working with NVIDIA, for example, to start optimizing the GPU accelerators and fine-tuning the compute platform to start onboarding agentic AI workloads, because technically the requirements are very different compared to a generative AI workloads. So that you can start onboarding them in the same platform and also start scaling agentic AI use cases as we start to see people start crawl, walk, and run, right? And it's not just on the hardware side. Of course, there is engineering integration on the software side as well. So if you look at the NVIDIA AI enterprise stack, there is technologies like Nimatron, which is the reasoning and agentic AI microservices, which is also part of this joint efforts, right? So we didn't stop there. We have extended this to other ISVs who are the global leaders in agentic space, in onboarding them as our partners as well. And as we see this technology start evolving, we will see our ecosystem expanding specific to agentic.
Right. And Ganesh, adding on to that, beyond vernacular AI, what potential do you see in agentic systems to expand inclusion, to really impact sectors like agriculture, healthcare, education?
So let me give you an example, right? So we worked with, so one of the problems, key problems that we face in India is infant mortality rate, right? And we worked with an NGO. Their theory was, look, one of the key problems why this is happening is access to information, right? So what we did with this NGO was we built a AI agent, a customized AI agent that would be on multi-channel, multimodal, but fundamentally voice, right? And what this would do is to give mothers in what we call the first 1,000 days, right, access to information. Essentially, any question that they would have on nutrition, any question that they would have on vaccinations, any question that they would have on, say, infant sickness, right, would be addressed by an AI agent, which would work in coordination with ASHA and the typical healthcare systems in the country, right? So this was a pilot that we did for a set of in a district in Uttar Pradesh. The important piece here was it had to speak, the machine had to speak in the local accent, right? It was still Hindi, but it was the Hindi accent spoken in that particular district of Uttar Pradesh, which a number of us who speak Hindi would never be able to translate, right? So the key aspect here was, how do we use these AI systems to improve the infant mortality rate? And we had some really good results. But today, with agentic AI playing a very big role, you can have like an SLM for various industries, For example, an SLM for healthcare, an SLM specifically for education. Let me talk a little bit on education. Some of the things that we did with education was NEP content, right? We all know that in the country there is a lot of NEP content in, say, English and Hindi, but the real India, again, Bharat doesn't speak English and Hindi. If they have to learn, you need to translate this video content to all the languages. So we did an exercise where we helped for certain types of NEP content to translate that into multiple Indian languages, right? And this is video content. Essentially what it has is it would have the lip sync, it would have the translation, and it would convey the right content, educational content, which would be accessible for the right student.
And if I may interrupt, how accurate is it?
So it's more accurate than you would imagine, right? So essentially, the AI systems that we have today, right, are built for India, for Bharat. And the second part is very important, right? It's for Bharat. And the reason, once it's built for Bharat, you will see that you can do systems that are fine-tuned, firstly, for specific languages. So whether it's an automatic speech recognition system or a SLM for that particular application, it works beautifully if you do have an amazing SLM and the core deep tech to back it, right? So the opportunity is endless. Soon, a lot of the problems where we are limited by, I would say, cost, we are limited by people we can throw to solve a problem, are going to be now solved by using agentic AI.
Right. And, I want Sharad to add to that. Finally, scalability is the acid test when it comes to all of this. How do we ensure that all of this infrastructure that we are talking about is vastly, vastly scalable in a country like ours, which has a very big rich-poor divide?
Yeah, I think it would require a lot of investment so the way we've designed at Neysa, the way we've designed our infrastructure is using open standards. We use open networking, Ethernet, as opposed to proprietary technologies, and we've also used open frameworks. Because we built it on first principles, we understand how to scale this from a technology perspective. But at the end of the day, it requires a huge amount of capital investment. Just to add to what my colleague just said earlier, the compute in India, I would say even 10x is too less. We need to invest a lot more from a scale perspective. I mean, a single version of Grok, if we were to believe the Instagram reels that you see from Elon Musk, right, that they use 100,000 GPUs, to train one large language model. I think all of AI mission put together is right now talking about 34,000 GPUs. So the opportunity, as you said, is absolutely there. The innovation, we have companies like Gyani and a lot of others innovating. And so, but at the same time, the architecture should be such that you can scale it both vertically as well as horizontally, right? And I think partners like Dell help us do that.
So the vision and the investments both need to be much larger.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. Shankar, finally looking ahead, how do you see Dell's ecosystem first approach really enabling India not just to consume AI, but also create export-ready, globally competitive AI solutions?
So I think the very good example of that is what we heard from Zoho, right? And it's a born in India company, and how they are, building their solution here and take into a global market to, compete in the global space. And that applies to our CSP partners as well as our ISV partners. A good example of that is, just to quote one, is Servam.ai as one, or could be, Gyani.ai or CodeMate.ai or UCube. There are few ISVs companies we are promoting and bringing them on board and making them part of our Dell AI factory framework, so that you're not only competing locally here, learn here, and then probably you can take all that experience and start exporting, be an inventor as well as a creator and an exporter of technology to the outside world, right? So that's available.
Right. Well, I'm going to close on a lighter note. And imagine we are sitting at the Dell Technologies Forum 2030. And today in 2025, we are talking about AI, India's new big frontier. What do you think we are going to be talking about 5 years from now at Dell Technologies Forum, Bengaluru? Who wants to take a wild guess first? Sharad, do you want to go? Okay, Ganesh.
So I think we're going to talk about how India's dominating the world in many spheres of AI, we're going to prove a lot of naysayers wrong in this country by saying that we are going to be one of the leaders in the whole AI technology.
Yeah, as opposed to being just consuming AI, India is regarded as more as a back office destination of the world. Hopefully, with companies like Gyani and companies like us providing infrastructure to them, we will build for the world, right? And Zoho was a classic example. There will be many more such examples that you will see hopefully in the next Dell Technology Forum.
Absolutely, I'm into that. Shankar, final word to you.
2030?
Yes.
Supposed to make it fun? So it's going to be, physical robotics, right? I think that's going to be the future frontier. So probably instead of we all sitting here, maybe the robots will be sitting there and, having the chat and conversation, and we'll be sitting there listening to
I
them.
certainly hope to be back here, and I'm not having any
Me
Mridu
too.
robots coming here. But thank you all. Funnily, none of you mentioned quantum for 2030. So is that too far out?
Yeah, it's already in play, I would say, and maybe 2027, 2028.
Okay.
That's a prediction.
Well, thank you.
So we are already talking AGI. Somebody said AGI might be there in 3 years. So I think
All right.
we could be in a very different world.
Well, absolute pleasure having you all here, gentlemen. Thank you so much for sharing your incredible insights with us here at Dell Technologies Forum. Huge round of applause for our very, very insightful panelists. Well, clearly, India's AI journey is not going to be just about innovation. It is also going to be about sovereignty, and the road ahead is all about partnerships with a purpose. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Dell Technologies Forum.